We go, but welcome to Growing Divine Ministries, everybody, where we teach people how to grow, change, and produce in everyday life. So we'll go over this here in a second, but the question why is one of the most important questions I think we can ask. It's not a whole statement, but if you just say why, it says a lot. And so I remember, as a kid, at least growing up, I guess in my household, I don't want to tell the stories wrong, but you really couldn't ask why as a kid. It was usually use that little deal where, because I said so and all that. And I think, and I don't know why you couldn't ask why. Maybe your parents didn't have all the answers. They wanted to be like superheroes and make sure like you could answer all of them. But when you were a little kid, maybe 4 or 5, whatever, I don't remember what age you do, but you start asking a bunch of questions. Why is the sky blue? Why is the grass green? You start asking all those little questions, and eventually your parents, they just say, quit asking me why. But I think that's a good question to really ask ourselves personally. You don't have to. I don't know if you can ask God this question because it didn't work out too well when Job tried to formulate that question to God. But I don't know if you can ask God that. But sometimes it is a question to ask, why do you do certain things, or why do you do what you do? And so that's what I want to formulate you guys today. Why do you? Why do you? And the reason why I want to ask this, because sometimes it answers the reasons why I do things that I do. And you just have to think about it like, man, why did I do that? Why did I go off on that person in this situation? Why did I not do this in that situation? Or, why didn't I do certain things? But in the scripture, as you're going to see today, it's 1 Peter 3:14 is where we're going to start at. But he actually asked, he said, man, be ready to give an account or to explain why you do certain things. That's what he's saying. And you'll look at, and I didn't quote it the exact way, but I want you to see this as we go over that. But it's going to be 1 Peter 3:14 is where we're going to start. And this is what he says here. And I just had to put this one in here because this is, I see a lot of these scriptures in the Bible now as I walk this path out. But this is what he says, and it just builds up just a little bit to it. It says, but even if you suffer for doing what is right, God will reward you for it. So don't worry or be afraid of their threats. All right. And so this is what the scripture I really want to focus in on. But this is what it said. Instead, you must worship Christ as Lord of your life. And if someone asks about your hope as a believer, always be ready to explain it. So that's telling me right then and there that some people might question you in this life. And he's saying here, Peter's saying, look, be ready to explain why you do what you do. At least that's what I look at it as, man. If you got to explain something to somebody, that means they're asking a question, and you need to give a statement of why you are doing or operating the way you operate. And I think that makes it a lot simpler if you do that. But as adults, this is what happens to a lot of us. We say, I'm grown. I don't have to explain nothing to you. I do it the way I want to do it, and that's the only way I can do it. And so I was actually, it was interesting. I was speaking to this guy, and we were having a good, interesting talk about the things of God. And so he's playing this and that. And so he said, well, Jesse, I really don't believe the Bible like that. And I said, okay, that's cool. I said, that's fine. That's even better. At least you don't believe the Bible like that. So I said, well, what do you believe? Well, I believe this, and then I believe that. And I said, well, we gotta throw all that out. And see, so the only reason why I say I'm asking, if you believe in the Bible, because what do you go by? That's really what I'm asking. I said, well, what do you go by to get your info from, or explain the things of, what you believe? And he said, Jesse, I go by myself. And I said, are you sure? I say, because you said you believe a little bit of the Bible, but you don't, believe everything. But I said, doesn't your feelings change sometimes? I say, don't you feel different sometimes about certain issues in life, and you don't feel the greatest, and you're not 100% each and every day sometimes. So you have to base what you believe off of this word. At least I do. I can't go by my feelings because my feelings will get me in trouble. Because if you go by your feelings, you would have been gave up on a lot of things. And so he couldn't really explain his why. And I think that happens to a lot of people. When you really look at this, you can't really explain why you do certain things, because in the church setting, it's just usually tradition. We say, man, I was brought up this way, so they did it this way, so that's exactly the way that I'm gonna do it. But is that way really working for you? Does that way really work? And because you have to progress in this life. You can't stay the same. And God's the same yesterday, today, and forever. But one thing that I notice is that people are changing. People are changing. So what did Paul say? He say, look, I become all things to all men. So if you're going to become all things to all men, you need to know why you need to become all things to all men. Because I need to become all things so I can reach you where you're at. That's exactly why you have to do this. And your why will keep you on track of doing that. Why you do what you do will definitely keep you on track. But if you ever want to hear some really crazy things, and it's really not even crazy things. You just want people to start lying to you, just ask them why. You say, hey man, why didn't you show up to the meeting that you said you were coming to? And then they just start lying to you. It's not even crazy stuff no more. They just start lying. And, oh man, when this happened, that happened, you be like, hey man, I just didn't come. And that makes it way better. You say, I didn't show up. I didn't think it was beneficial to what I was doing. So that's my why. And at least you know where you stand with that person. But when people tell you all different types of things and then you can't never trust their word, and you be like, man, why do they do what they do? You know, their explanation is a little different than what it should be. It says, the word says, let your yea be your yea and nay be your nay. Don't add nothing to that. Don't add nothing to that, because it makes it very simple. I think I was explaining. I think I was telling you this, Nancy, but I don't know if I was telling somebody else. But I say, man, I have to quit making excuses myself to people, because I do. I say I'm making excuse and different things like that. And I say I just really have to get to the place where I just be like, no, I'm not doing that. Because I was telling Nancy, I say, really, I just need to say no, because there's really no reason why I couldn't do it. You just really don't want to do it, but you make the excuses. I'm like, man, I just need to straight up say, nah, I'm not doing that. It doesn't really fit in my why. So I can throw that right out the window of why I don't need to do that. And so, and we can even get to that point. But he's saying here, man, if someone asks about your hope as a believer, and so do people really see that hope that in you as a believer, or they're just looking like, man, they in the same boat as I am? They really ain't got no hope. So at least if you're gonna explain this to them, you can at least explain why you don't have no hope. You can be like, hey man, I don't have no hope because I'm really not searching and seeking after this word like I should. I'm really not following after this thing like I should. But don't be like me. Do what the word says. I might be messing this up right now, but I'm not doing it right, but I need to do better. But always be ready to explain it. Explain it to them. Somebody asks. And then let's go to the second verse here. And this is what it says. And it says, but do this in a gentle and respectful way. There's no reason to fight about this if somebody questions you. And I think it's a beautiful thing. I won't let you question me if I'm up here preaching, but after service, you can ask all the questions you want. Ask me. Challenge me on some things if you want to. And hopefully I have the right answer. And if I can't find, I say, well, let's look in this word together. And see, that's why people get upset, because they really don't want to be questioned on certain things that they do anyway. But man, it says, do it in a gentle and respectful way, and to keep your conscience clear. Then if people speak against you, then they will be ashamed when they see what a good life you live because you belong to Christ. That's what people are looking for. I got people now, they come into my business and they apologize before on certain things that they do. And they say, man, I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to say that in here, or I didn't mean to act that way. And it's not even because of what I'm doing. It's just because of the certain lifestyle that I live. People recognize, like, man, I shouldn't have did that. They feel some type of way because and I've explained it to a lot of people. Maybe they overheard me explaining certain things to people, and maybe that's why they seek after the things that I they're aware of the things that I do, I guess, in the barbershop. And so it was amazing that the disciples, they actually questioned Jesus. If y'all do remember that, they did question Jesus, and they said, well, why do you speak like that? Why do you talk like that? And he did. He explained it to them. He said, because it's for you to understand the mysteries. And it's not for everybody to understand this thing. And that's what does happen, because when you don't seek this out, you sometimes don't understand the why. And Jesus didn't want everybody to know this, because he said, look, you're just really here for the fish and the loaves and for the glitz and the glamour. You're just here for what I can give you. But he said, really, when you get down to the meat of things, man, you're going to have to eat this flesh and drink this blood. If not, you don't have no parts of me. And so things change when you really understand why you're trying to do this. And so these are just a couple things that I want you guys to look at and want you guys to think about. And this will, your why essentially helps you stay on track. That's why I'm asking you guys this, and it helps you keep pushing, it helps you keep fighting, and it helps you keep progressing. And so if you do look at it, you look at your why do you live like you live? Why is my lifestyle the way it is? Am I really doing what God is saying? Or am I all in with this thing? Or am I chasing after certain things? Why do you really live like you live in this life? Is it the way the word of God says to live? Or is it just like what everybody else says that you should be doing or what you should be seeking after? But you have to figure out that, why do I live like I live? And then one of the ones too is that, why do you serve God like you serve? Are you truly serving God, or is it just lip service in this deal? Are you really giving God your all? Are you really giving him his dues that he's due? And so I really have to think about that, because a lot of people that I recognize now, they're not really serving God like they should. And it's not for me to judge that, and I can't change people's lives, and I can't make them come to Christ and give them their life, give them their whole life truly. But it says you have to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. So that's not up to the pastor to do that. That's not up to your spouse to do that. But you have to realize, like, man, why do I serve God like this? Why don't I wake up in the morning and give him the first fruits of my day? Or why don't I pray at night and really seek after him wholeheartedly? And just that's part of your why. And then ultimately, look, why do you do what you do? Why do I do this? Why am I doing this? And these things can be answered with your alone time with God. Like, man, God, why do I do this? Am I doing this just because I want to make it to heaven, or they told me this is the only way I can get into heaven? But why do you do what you do? And these answers and these questions will truly can put you in danger. They can put you in danger if you don't answer them. If you don't answer these questions, you'll be in danger, because you'll running through life aimlessly, like, man, why am I doing this? Or why do I need to come to church and fellowship with the brethren? Or what's really going on in this thing? And what does it say? What does it say? All right, and that's what it is. I just wanted to add that to it. I'm glad I put that on there, so I would have forgot that. But if you don't figure this out, you can fall away very easily. That's ultimately what this is, man. If you don't figure out why, you can fall away from the faith very, very easily when these other things that look better pop up in each and every one of our lives. But you have to remember this. The guy that was writing this was Peter. And Peter was the same guy that got the cussing. And the Lord told him, he said, look, man, before this is over with, you're going to deny me. He didn't tell him he was going to start cussing, but Peter did. He started cussing because he didn't want to be associated with God at that time. He just saw him crucified, so he thought he was going to get up on that cross too. But this was the same guy that denied Christ. This was the same guy that walked on water. And this was the same guy that had the revelation of who Jesus was. So this is the same guy. And he said, man, Peter, you're a rock. See, on this foundation of the statement that you said, I can build my church now. And so this is the same guy. So his progression was really good. And he didn't understand why he was doing these things at a certain time. But once he got the revelation of who God was, you couldn't turn him off his why. And when you look at the disciples there also, man, they all fell away from the faith. When Jesus died, it was over with. They scattered. They scattered, man. They went their own way. They was like, man, my why is out the window now. Because we lost the savior, we lost the master, and man, we don't know what to do now. And so that's how you can fall away from your faith if you don't understand why you're doing what you do. And it helps me to stay on track because I tell myself, I say, man, Jesse, why do you do this? And I say, well, I'm trying to teach people how to grow, change, and produce in everyday life. I say, ultimately, I got to try to lead people to the knowledge of Christ. And I have to continue to do this because this is my reasonable service. And so this is my why I have to keep going. I have to keep progressing because it's in me. And I always told myself, I said, man, Jesse, if you didn't do this no more, could you actually sit on the pew? And I said, no, I couldn't. So my why has to be to keep preaching, to keep teaching, to keep proclaiming the good news of Christ. And that's what this is. But when you truly find out your why, that's where you'll be your happiest. See, your why will make you happy because I'm happy teaching this. I'm happy trying to uplift people and draw them closer to Christ. See, I'm happy trying to get you in your perfect position with God. See, that's my why. And so everybody has to figure out their why. Your why, it might not be to start off trying to lead everybody to Christ. It might just be to get closer to God for yourself. That might be where your why is right now. But I guarantee you, when you find your why, it will make you happy. It will make you content. It will keep you going even when you don't see the fruit of your labors. But it's happening. And I know why. I know why it doesn't happen sometimes because the devil's trying to throw you off track. See, so I know why he's doing it. So I have to keep fighting. Let's say, all right, I'm doing this because I know, man, I'm gonna see some victories in this lifetime before it's over with. I'm gonna see some good things start to happen in this lifetime. So I continue to push and to keep going. So it doesn't matter about the ups and downs that life throws you. That's life. That's life. I broke down on the way to church this morning. My truck, I went to the gas station, I pumped gas. I tried to start my truck back up, over with. I said, no. I got it. I ain't say nothing. I just took my truck. I pushed my old truck over to the side. And when I got tired of pushing, I just stopped it there. And I called my wife and said, hey, I said, my truck's messed. I don't know, if I told her my truck was messed up, but I said, hey, can you come give me a jump or something? I thought it was just my battery, but it wasn't. I think it's my starter. So I left it at the gas station. But she brung me up here, but I'm like, man, all right, you ain't gonna stop this why today, devil. I said, I'm continuing to pushing on this thing, but I just it makes it easier when you figure out your why. It really does, because your parents might not let you ask all these why questions, but I think it makes you a better person because you think to yourself like, man, why am I doing this? So next Sunday, if you do want to miss church, you be like, man, why am I missing? Why ain't I fellowshipping with the brethren or something? Why am I not serving God the way I should, or giving him my time like I should? Or man, why do I live like this? What's going on in my life? Why am I doing it this certain type of way? And I think it puts you in a good spot when you understand that. And I think don't question God with this, but question yourself and let God start to reveal this to you. You're not questioning God about, hey, Lord, why did you formulate this in the sky and all this other stuff? Be like, look inwardly at myself and say, man, why am I doing this? Because 9 times out of 10 for me, when I'm going through a problem or issue, I usually look at me first. I don't tend to look at everybody else first. I say, man, did I handle that correctly? Or why did I treat that person that way at that time? And so I think that will help us to progress and to continue to do better and better in this life. But let me close out with this verse here, and we'll be getting ready to wrap this up. And then this is what it says here in 2 Corinthians 3:2 here. And it says, the only letter of recommendation we need is you yourselves. Okay. And so look, it's saying like whatever we see here, we don't need no letter of recommendation. We don't need nobody to vouch for you. All we need is you yourself. See, we're going on what your life is and what we're seeing coming out of you. And so that's what he's saying there. That's the only letter of recommendation we're going to need. And he said, your lives are a letter written in our hearts. And this is what Paul was writing to the Corinthians, but he was saying, man, your lives are a letter. So we're witnessing your life. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at your life that you're living. And that's the only thing we need here. And it says, everyone can read it and recognize our good work among you. So can people really recognize your life and your good works that you're doing? Are people really seeing this? Are you a living epistle like the New King James Version is saying, written for all men to read? Can we really recognize that Christ within you, the hope of glory and the reason you do what you do? See, our life is explaining everything. See, whether we want it to or not, but your life is your biggest witness. And the way your why is depends on how you live this life out. That's what it says. The letter of recommendation only we need is you. You yourself. You're the letter of recommendation. When you walk into the room, do you light it up? Are people excited to see you? Are they happy to be there? Or are you, man, that guy that they hate see coming? You say, man, that's hard when that person comes in the room, man. They just suck the life out the room, or we don't know what to expect when that person shows up. But it's your life, and the reason you're living life a certain way is because you might be in a bad funk, and your wife might be a little jacked up right now. But it's your life that everybody's watching. It's your life that everybody's witnessing. It's not about your words that you say. And Paul said it. He said, man, look, I don't come with eloquent speech and all that other stuff, man. He said, I come with the power of the Holy Spirit. So I want the Holy Spirit to change your life. I don't want it to be me and all my words that I say to you. Man, once the Holy Spirit gets down in you, now you start to do things a little differently. You start to be excited about this life that you're living, and good things start to come out of it. But he says, man, everyone can read it and recognize our good work among you. And so that's where we're getting to, man. We need to get where the world can have a hope. They can see our good works. They can see our love for one another. They can see that we're going to love them through the thick and the thin, and we're not going to judge them where they're at, because people know when they're doing wrong. They just don't have their why yet to put them on the right track. You say, man, why am I doing this? Because I want to win people to Christ. I want to be that living epistle like the word says that I can be. But continue to just craft and to mold that, and to continue to just seek after God wholeheartedly to continue your why. And that's going to keep you on the track that you're on. Well, your why, if it's bad, it's going to keep you on that track. But if it's good, it continues to progress you in this thing, and it continues to help you to keep going, because life is ups and downs, twists and turns, hills and valleys. It's going to be all of those things. But when you say, Lord, you're the reason why I'm doing this, I want to make you happy in this life. And so it keeps you happy in that whole process when you get your eyes off of you and you seek God wholeheartedly and you figure out what truly he wants you to do in this lifetime.